Hello, it's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais in Ontario, Canada, with episode number 125 of the Yakking Show. This is a show for awakening you to new perspectives for a changing world. And our guest today will certainly open your eyes in several respects. But I don't want to steal Kathleen's thunder. It's not my job to introduce guests. Kathleen does it way better than I do. So my first job is to introduce co-host Kathleen Beauvais from Waterloo in Ontario. Hi, Kathleen. Welcome again. And how are you today?
I'm doing great, Peter. Thanks for that intro. And thank you all so very much for tuning into our show. We so appreciate you and we love reading your comments. So please keep those coming. And if anyone out there is interested in being a guest on our show, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Peter or myself. And as Peter mentioned, we do have another special guest with us today. It's really interesting, a really interesting guest. Please welcome Lucas Caneda to our show today. Hello, Lucas. How are you?
Hello, Kathleen. Hello, Peter. I'm very, very well. Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be at your show. Thank you for having me here. And I'm ready to talk about and have a nice chat with you guys.
Great. Well, I have to say, you are a professional rugby player and a team leader for an incubator / accelerator, a company called UNIQORN out of France. So can you tell our audience, Lucas, a little bit about your background? I mean, you've had an illustrious professional sports career, and now you're involved with UNIQORN. So tell us a bit about yourself and then how you came to be involved with UNIQORN, and perhaps explain what UNIQORN is.
Yes, sure. I'm an Argentinian, so I've lived in Argentina for 25 years. My dream was to become a professional rugby player. Back home at that time, there were no professional clubs, so rugby was just amateur. I knew that if I wanted to fulfill my dream, I had to go somewhere else, look for that opportunity. I started contacting agents, sending my videos, preparing myself. It was not an easy trip, but eventually I had an offer to join a rugby club in France in the second division called Pro D2. When that offer came, I knew I was ready in my mind to live through that experience. That's what I wanted to do. So I did not hesitate much. I just kind of packed my things, told my family, my girlfriend, invite her to join me. And here I am 6 years afterwards, still living in France, still playing rugby. A bit of changes during that time, yes, for sure. At the beginning, I was just focusing on rugby. I was doing just that. That was what I wanted. But at one moment in time, that was not enough, I would say. So I've also decided to carry on studying. Not the same career I did before, because it was too hard, I would say. So I was doing engineering when I was in Argentina. I was not very good at it. I mean, my focus was rugby, so I struggled a bit during university. But then when I came here and I decided to carry on studying a bit more, I went to management. I did 3 years of it, finished my career. And then at one moment in time, again, I would say I'd like to do something extra, not just rugby. And that's how I came into the business world while I keep playing, because I do keep playing. And I do, I'd like to call myself also a professional athlete today, because I do most of the stuff that people or professional athletes do, like training, recovering, sleeping well, eating well. I mean, those for me key points that you need to be able to carry on doing if you want to keep playing at a high level. But I'm also one of the leaders in UNIQORN, our incubator accelerator. And in fact, we took the rugby club, Sarlat Rugby, we took it as one of our startups, one of our clients, and we managed the whole team. which is one of the most interesting things I would say, because I'm a part of both sides of the story. I'm at both sides of the coin, and I really enjoy it.
Excellent. Very good. So you've told us that you had to move to become a professional player from Argentina, where rugby was only played at the amateur level. That was quite a transition. Was there a huge mindset change you had to adopt to go from amateur to professional status?
I would say no, because my mindset was already being a professional athlete. That was my way of living, because that was who I wanted to become. So that's one of the things I usually try to say, and I like leaders and motivation that comes through example. I think if I tell someone to do something, I need to be doing it myself. If not, I sound, it's easy to speak, but not to show. So I do think the best way to be followed is that if you actually show people what you do, not just tell them. And usually the impact that you get, it's a lot higher. The engagement that you receive, it's a lot better. That works for sports, but also works for business. It's kind of our model inside. We always try things first. We don't just tell people what to do. We've tried it before. We've put it into place, and then we show what results it can bring and why that's the way or the route that you should be taking.
Right. So with that team experience, I mean, rugby, as we know, is a team sport. So that helps you make the transition into a team environment in the business as well then.
Yeah, I think the connections between sports and business are huge. And today, I mean, it's, I'd say, almost impossible to run any business on your own.
Sure.
You need to rely on a good team. One of the things we like to say always is not how to do it, but it's who. So you need to identify the right people for the right job, for the right task. It's not just a matter of doing everything, because there's a limit to that. You can't be doing everything and do everything perfectly or very good. I always say there's always someone that does things better than I do, which I think it's a complete reality. And accepting that allows you to delegate and to, I don't like the word use, but I would probably say leverage each person's best attributes, their strengths into building a team that works well together and that can perform and succeed.
Right. I know Kathleen wants to ask you, she's determined to find out more about your company and your startup. So I'll keep my mouth shut and let Kathleen ask you something.
Well, yes, you have, you're involved with a startup called, I believe, FormationGG. It's an up and coming platform dedicated to esports. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. Yes, I am involved in FormationGG. We had it since the start. We are actually co-founders into the startup. We've launched it like 5 months ago, I think, 15th of January. The idea is to bring esports to the community. We have a big focus in Latin America today, because I would say one of the reasons why is because esports, I'd like to say there's two different levels, like professional teams and all the rest. And the percentages of people that manage to get into that level are very low, kind of like in sports. And but we'd like to bring the opportunity to everyone to play, to enjoy, to compete. Because what we do is we actually create tournaments for every single game, no matter where you are. And that's what we bring to the table as FormationGG, as a legal and approved company in France. So the reason why we, created or funded the company was also to avoid scams in esports, especially when it's not professional level and it's more amateur level. There's lots and lots of scams. People that claim that they'll pay for a prize to the winner, for instance, and never do. It's sad but true. And since we are a legal company, if we do that, we go to jail. So we avoid not paying our winners. So yes, that's another key point into FormationGG, is to give the people a place to compete, to win, where they can feel safe that if they do win, if they do reach those winners, they'll get what they were promised in return.
Okay, so for Lucas, for some of our older audience, people like me with grey hair and who've been around since way before the computer age, when you're talking esports, that's gaming, online games?
That's online gaming, exactly. It's not any game, I would say. It's actually the games that have a competitive scene all around. So it's not just games that you play by yourself, but you can actually play against someone.
But more sophisticated than the early games of playing chess against someone over the internet, for instance. It's more sophisticated than that, I guess.
Some of them are, but some of them are not. I mean, okay. I do consider chess being an esport, even if it's probably not. For me, into my eyes, I am competing against someone else through my computer, through my cell phone, into a game against someone else. I do think it's a very good example. And as a matter of fact, my grandpa is a big fan of chess. You know, I remember ourselves when I was very, very young, him trying to teach me how to chess and me how to use the computer.
Okay, very good. So I want to ask you, the founder of Korn, the founder of your company is Dom, I think. What motivated him to get involved with the Sarlat Rugby Club?
That's a very good story, actually, because at the beginning, when Dom lived 25 years in the US, he's French, but he went there on a 2-week vacation and came back 25 years afterwards. And when he came back, he was finding a place. He decided with his wife to move to Sarlat, and he was looking for an accountant. And there's 2 accountants in town. One of them was the previous president from the rugby club, and he ended up he's today a very good friend of us. And at the beginning, he became a very small sponsor, like paying an entry fee, I would say. And then next year, thanks to the relationship and his involvement, we became through UNIQORN the biggest sponsor. And this is season, or the last season, I would say, because the season already ended. The accountant came to us and told us the situation is not very good due to COVID mainly. If you have any ideas on how to take this to the next level, keep going, I'm all ears. And we said, okay, we would like to take over, but we're not doing this to just keep doing what we've been doing for 118 years. If we're stepping in, we'd like to take this to a whole different level because we are competitors. We'd like to win. So we set ourselves very high objectives, but we give ourselves the means to get there. Again, it's not just words, but we're actually setting the example of how we want to get there. We recruited, I would say, 25 people for next season. All very, very good players, very good guys too, human beings. Because Peter, you build a team not just by your quality on the pitch, but also outside of the pitch, and that's how the team takes shape and actually beats each other. Because you need to be strongest team to succeed.
Okay, oh, that's interesting. It's very interesting. We'll talk more about that just now, but back to Kathleen for the moment.
So how did the sport of rugby, how did it help to teach you about overcoming adversity?
That's a good one. First of all, I like to call rugby a family. When I first spoke to Peter a couple of weeks ago, we connected right away. It's like we speak the same language just because we're rugby fans, both of us. And that's why I do believe rugby is a big family all around the world, no matter where you are, what age you are, we connect right away. And I think that connection gives you resilience. Some of the things that you are taught ever since you're a kid, and you grab a rugby ball as friendship, competition in the good sense, but also the rugby, and I would say business and life. It's not an easy thing. I mean, you need to be able to take a hit and be able to stand back up, because that's what happens. That's what happens on the pitch. You don't always run, and you have 15 people in front of you that don't allow you to push forward. It's a battle that lasts for 80 minutes, and sometimes you go a bit forward, sometimes they take you back, and you need to be able to keep pushing. Have a good objective, a good mindset that tells you this is where I want to be. I do think that it requires a lot of passion. And again, that's a great connection to business, because if you don't have the passion, you're probably running with a 10-yard penalty. I think that, Kathleen, sounds very familiar to you into the football world.
Yeah, I've got to throw in there, for those of our audience who are not familiar with rugby, rugby is a game that's played, as Lucas said, for 80 or 90 minutes with a short break in the middle, and every player plays every one of those minutes unless the player is so injured he or she cannot continue moving. You don't bring in substitutes every 5 minutes so your tired players can have a rest. And it's a hard game where players tackle one another, and none of the players wear any protective equipment except perhaps a very soft band over their ears. There's no shoulder pads or chest pads or shin pads or anything else. So it's a tough game. That's all I'm going to say. Otherwise, I'm going to get shot down here. But I don't want to offend our football players, but it's, let me keep quiet. What I wanted to ask you, Lucas, though, was I know from being heavily involved in a number of sports in my life and running and all this sort of thing, and having my own business, and when I was in the corporate world too, it's a real struggle to play at a high level of sport or compete at a high level in athletics and run a demand and be part of, and have a demanding career at the same time. So how do you juggle those two high level activities?
I do think that they help one another. You need to be able to disconnect sometimes from what you're doing, and changing from rugby to business, to sports, to what you're doing as a job or as a passion. As long as you have the will, you have that passion, that fire, that energy that takes you to wake up every day and not feel that you need to this is a burden. No, quite the opposite. I love what I do. And I just have, I enjoy doing what I do. And that's, for me, it's the key to any success, is enjoying what you do. You need to be doing your passion. And I do think that most of the people never never find that, or struggle a lot at least to get that, to get there. And I consider myself very, very lucky, and I appreciate where I am, and I just want to enjoy my time and to actually help other people to get to have the same feeling, because I do think it's feeling that being part of something that's a real challenge, a real adventure. You need to live it, right? I wouldn't never like to miss this opportunity, and that's
Right.
what.
I'm going to jump in with a quick one, because when Lucas and I spoke earlier, a couple of weeks ago, you were saying that your company is really good at helping people who are involved in the rugby club and in sport in general keep going and practicing and juggling, using that word. So they're a lot more flexible, should I say, than conventional businesses. Is that right?
Yeah, well, in fact, we created I would call it a device, or put the name that you want, that it's called Rugby Plus. What we do is we give people the opportunity to do both things at the same time, play professional rugby and also be a part of our business. So we give people two jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They are professional athletes for, I would say, roughly half their time. And the other half, they are a part of UNIQORN or one of our startups, doing things like sales, business development, marketing, social media, design, back end, front end. There's lots of things that we do internally, and people can actually create a career of their own, both sides, and which I don't think any other club does, not that I know of, at least. And I do think, and from the returns that we had, it's a great opportunity. People are loving what we do, and people tell us, how do you manage? Well, as a matter of fact, we are already 10 people doing that, 10 players that work at both sides. We have 15 more joining us in the next month when the season starts in July. And we've, I would say, demonstrated already that duality works into both's favor. So
sure,
because we spend so much time together that we become so close, and the team benefits on both sides, in the business and on the pitch
and on the field. Very good.
Right.
Yeah, excellent. Kathleen, over to you.
So Lucas, you suffered a significant knee injury in 2014, and many thought that you would never return to professional sports, and I think many told you would never play rugby again. What was that mental dialogue that helped you overcome that?
I had a couple of things. By that time, I was not a professional athlete. That was actually before, the year before I got my opportunity. It was quite tough, I would say. I mean, I still remember the injury by heart. I mean, and by that time we had our doctor at the club was those guys that always tries to keep pushing. Yeah, I mean, everything's all right. Let's keep going. And I had a very good relationship with him. And when I tried to stand up and my knee was like going everywhere, I told him, hey, strap it up so I can keep going. He looked at me, grabbed my knee and said, not this time. It's like, what do you mean not this time? Come on, strap it up quickly. We need to keep going. And again, I think he said it 3 or 4 times, not this time. Then I clicked that something was not very well. Something must have been wrong. Of course, I mean, I wouldn't, it was not easy. But I do remember one thing that really helped me out. It was that I looked forward, I would say, and I knew that the next game, the first game from the next season, was a very important game. So we were playing against one of the biggest clubs in Argentina, a game that I wouldn't like to miss. So I grabbed my coach and I told him, listen, first game of the season, next season, I want to play. He looked at me, okay, it's gonna be tough. There's not enough time, but okay. I say, I've got one question for you. Because, you know, before the actual start, you got exhibition games, friendly games. So we had 3 friendly games before that first game. And I asked him, how many of those do you need me to play to actually put me on the pitch for that first season game? And today I think it was a bit on purpose, but he actually told me you need to play all 3. I was like, I mean, I was not because I lack of humility, but I was kind of one of the captains of the team. I didn't miss a game ever. There was not many reasons to not put me on the field, I would say. I thought he was being like too harsh. I mean, give me a break. First friendly game was 5 months and 1 week out of my surgery. And recovery usually takes between 6 and 8 months. And that's, I mean, being generous. But I guess I just, you know, I set that up on my head, and I mean, that was my objective. And that helped me work out a way. I knew I had 5 months and 1 week to get ready. I had to play at least 5 minutes of that first game for him to put me on the game that mattered the most. And I know a lot of effort in the middle. I remember asking my surgeon, what can I do to make this quick? He said, nothing. Things take time to heal. I said, come on, okay, you need to be doing these exercises as soon as you can after surgery, okay? I remember getting out of surgery. I was on my bed, laying on the bed. It was not, my room was not ready yet. And so I was laying at the hallway with a lot of other people, feeling a bit dizzy yet because of all the things that they put you whenever they do surgery on you. And I said, okay, it's time to start doing the exercises. When I told that story to the surgeon, he looked at me and he was damn crazy. I mean, and he said, why? Well, you should have waited for like a week. I was like, you told me as quickly as I can. You know that as quickly as I can means that for me. I mean, I'm not going to be waiting for 1 week because that means I'm 1 week late.
Right.
I don't know.
Lucas, we're getting toward the end of our time, but I got a really important question I want to ask you. You've had lots of experience in professional sport, amateur sport, Northern Hemisphere, and of course, Southern Hemisphere, different clubs, different countries, and in business. So if I was to ask you what you think is the key characteristic that makes the difference between people being successful, either in sport or in business, athletics, and the average, what's that key characteristic, do you think?
I'd say passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Passion, yeah.
I think it's a very, very strong characteristic, which leads to very constructive actions. Because people that have that passion go the extra mile,
right.
Take initiative. And I also like being a competitor. Some people think it's a negative thing. I don't like to lose, no matter what I do. Sometimes I go a bit extreme, I would say, but I think that being such a competitive guy pushes me further, makes me do extra things. And I do think those two components allow people to have at least a bigger chances of success. Of course, success, it's it's different for everyone.
Sure.
And that's something very, very important, very powerful, because I do think we can all be successful.
Right.
Don't need to be beating someone else to be successful. We just need to be achieving whatever we consider ourselves to be our success, our winning.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
setting those objectives into something that's achievable, but also that defies you into growing as a human being, growing as a person, and pushing your limits.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. So
Very good.
I think we're at the end of our time, but how do people contact you, Lucas, if they want to get a hold of you or get a hold of somebody at UNIQORN? What's the best way to do that?
Well, the best way, Kathleen, and thank you for the opportunity, would be through LinkedIn.
Okay.
So just search for me, Lucas Caneda. That's LUCASCANEDA. They can just drop me a message. I'm pretty much reactive, I would say. And yes, if there's a connection, I would happy to jump into a call or whatever.
Good. We will put that as a caption under this point of the video, and we put it in the description. So for me, thanks, Lucas.
Yes, thank you so much for being on our show, Lucas. We really appreciated having you on the show. And thank you all so very much again for tuning in, and keep those comments coming because we love reading them. And once again, if anyone out there is interested in being a guest on our show, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Peter or myself. And until next time, take care and bye-bye, everyone.